I know it's our job to help this guy and everything, but I think this guy's a lost cause.
Frowning Friends is one of the biggest shows in America right now, mainly thanks to TikTok and YouTube Shorts circulating clips of some of the show's best moments. It's currently number 5 on HBO Max, or just Max if you're a f***ing conformist. Frowning Friends was created by Michael Cusack and Zach Haydel. The show mainly follows Charlie and Pim, who both work at a company whose sole purpose is making its customers smile. Sounds sweet and innocent, right? Good, keep that whimsical ignorance. At the time of recording this, there's only 2 seasons of the show out right now for a total of 17 episodes. So today, I thought it'd be fun to sit down and rank all 17 episodes into a tier list. Obviously, these are my own opinions, so they're probably going to differ from yours, and that's okay. I'm not going to go off on IMDb scores or anything like that. It'll be solely based on vibes and how funny I thought that individual episode was. There's going to be at least a few times where one episode gets a high rank just because of a single joke, and there's going to be others where the jokes may not land, but the plot itself is good. Deal with it. This should go without saying, but I'm going to say it anyway because some people are really stupid, but spoilers ahead. Alright, ready? Good? Let's get into it. Desmond's Big Day Out is the pilot episode, and it does its job exceptionally well, which is to introduce the characters and show us what their jobs are. Right off the bat, you're introduced to Charlie Dompler and Pim Pimling. Charlie's more grounded in reality, whereas Pim is the overly excited, happy character and generally has a positive outlook on everything, regardless of circumstance. We're also introduced to Allan, Charlie and Pim's coworker, and most famous for the following TikTok audio.
Thank God, finally. What the fuck?
There's also Mr. Boss, who looks something straight out of a Meat Canyon cartoon. The plot of the episode centers around Smiling Friends receiving a call from a mom who's worried about her son. Charlie and Pim are assigned to it and set out to make the son smile, leading to an amazingly placed Dr. Disrespect lines.
I love kids, Charlie! I love kids!
The pair head inside expecting to find a child, only to walk into Desmond's room to find...
I was probably gonna use it to shoot myself or something.
So Desmond's depressed and planning to do the thing with the gun in his brains, you know what I'm talking about. Anyway, Charlie thinks he's a lost cause, whereas Pim is committed to helping him out. Like I said, the entire point of this episode is to establish the characters, and it does that very well. Thanks to Pim's persistence, Desmond agrees to give them a day to help find the meaning in life, or else he's gonna blow his brains out and make them watch.
Okay, not sure about that, but yay!
One of my favorite moments in the episode happens where Alan's looking for a mouse who keeps stealing his cheese and finds a random dude just living inside the walls of the firm watching, adult things. It's so stupid and random, but I love it. Anyway, the group spends the entire day together, taking Desmond to a house party, a trip to Daveland, and all the other fun stuff, but nothing seems to work until they bring Desmond to the office, and he's able to get out his serial killer tendencies on these purple blibbly dudes. Also, Charlie, Pim, and Desmond walk in on this, and it's just Alan being crucified, like, what the fuck? In the end, all Desmond needed was to find purpose, which comes in the form of him being a blibbly exterminator. All in all, it's a really funny episode. I say that, but honestly, I don't really think there's a bad episode in the series yet. Well, actually, there is one, but we'll touch on that later. I threw Desmond's Big Day Out in B tier. This episode centers around Mr. Frog. Shocking, I know. He's a famous TV celebrity who's kinda unhinged and losing his way. Basically, he goes nuts and puts a TMZ reporter in his mouth, which then ends up with him getting fired from his own show. Pim and Charlie spend the episode working with him, but he just keeps shooting himself in the foot at every turn, kinda like that episode of South Park where Mr. Hanky is a stand-in for Roseanne. He just keeps fucking up. Yep, just like that, but with a frog instead of literal shit. They try a few different tactics, like hosting a fan meet and greet, which turns out like this.
Hey, stop, come on. Let go of him, Mr. Frog. Let go of him.
Then they try to fix that by making a massive donation with a press release for it, except Mr. Frog isn't taking massive amounts of drugs anymore, so he snaps there too. Then they put him in The Tonight Show with Jimmy Fallon, where he pulls a Kanye West and does this.
Probably working with all those filthy...
This ultimately gets him deplatformed until he jumps into a live show recording for his own series and apologizes, before eating a psychotic producer and reclaiming his fame. To me, it's one of the weaker episodes in the show, so I threw it in C tier. It's not horrible by any means, but I just didn't really find the character all that funny, and there's way better ones that come up later on that all deserve higher spots on the list. Like this next one, for example. By far one of my favorite episodes in the entire show. Shrimp's Odyssey follows Charlie and Pim and their attempts to help Shrimp out after his girlfriend dumps him. Who's Shrimp? This guy. He's your stereotypical World of Warcraft player who sits in his room all day playing Mouse Quest 2. A real ladies' man, if you couldn't tell. This is one of those episodes where, at least for me, it's just hilarious the entire time. It's got a standout moment that's honestly one of my favorite moments in the entire show. So the plot's split into two paths. Charlie stays with Shrimp and tries to help him move on from his ex-girlfriend, Shrimpina, while Pim sets out to find Shrimpina and get her to give Shrimp another chance. Pim being Pim, he goes to the wrong address and ends up hitting it off with a barista, mistaking her for Shrimpina. While that's going on, Charlie helps Shrimp overhaul his wardrobe.
How do I look, yellow man?
I don't know what's so funny to me about it, but it's just that I don't know if it's the text-to-speech voice or the image itself, but then Charlie following it up with the,
You look like you're about to tell your friend not to come to school tomorrow, man.
I mean, it's never made me not laugh. And then the very next scene, Charlie takes Shrimp to go get a tan, but all it does is make him into cooked shrimp, so then some random passerby just walks by and takes a bite out of him. It's so fucking stupid. As it turns out, that chick that Pim brought to meet Shrimp is actually super into shrimp, since he's an introvert who loves Mouse Quest, which apparently is all you need to do to get chicks. But regardless, happy ending for everyone. Except Pim, who had already planned out the rest of his life with her. S tier episode through and through. Anyone who disagrees needs to be lobotomized.
You get lost!
Following up Shrimp's Odyssey, we're moving right into a silly Halloween special, which is another banger. It's Halloween, obviously. I mean, it's in the title. Come on, guys. But yeah, it's Halloween, and the party's gonna be ruined unless Pim goes out to the forest to collect more firewood. The only trick here is that he's not supposed to cross the bridge since he'll get lost, at least according to Mr. Boss. So, what does Pim do? Well, naturally, he crosses it like a f***ing moron, since that's where all the good firewood is. This inevitably bites him in the ass when it starts to rain and he gets lost, almost drowns, and ends up in an abandoned cabin in the woods. In what's overall a pretty dark episode, you get the stupidest shock laughter moment in arguably all of Season 1. If not, the entire series so far. Pim's trying to talk himself into living here forever, so he's envisioning his wife and setting up the house, and he gets to where his younglings will sit and go wild with fun, and it's just this. It's so stupid, but it makes me laugh every time. Alright, so back to the plot. Well, something is hunting Pim. He manages to escape the cabin and cross a river where he thinks he's safe, until this thing pops out for a jump scare. Honestly, full disclosure here, it scared the shit out of me the first time I saw this. It was probably around 2 a.m. and I was working and had this on the TV and looked up as he's sitting there and then just boom, weird clay demon thing. This dude chases him all the way back to the Smiling Friends building where the partygoers mistake him for wearing blackface and mutilate him in a scene that I don't think we can show on YouTube. I put this one in A tier, and listen, if you disagree, I get it, but for me, I really like the plot, and the Hello Daddy Pim meme, it just sends me every time.
Cool, anyways.
Who violently murdered Simon S. Salty is the Smiling Friends version of a murder mystery episode, and nothing really lands for me. Charlie and Pim go to Salty's, which is a greasy, disgustingly unhealthy fast food place that Charlie loves. We've all got our own version of Salty's, come on now. So the duo go in, only to find out that the entire menu has changed to a healthier option. It'd basically be like walking into a McDonald's and finding out they only served Beyond Burgers and seaweed wraps. Charlie goes to talk to Salty, only to find out that he's been murdered. And the only people that could have done it are still in the restaurant. Ooh, spooky, who did it? Was it the ketchup packet, or was it the weird incestual twin things, or the slutty fries? Well, spoiler alert, it was all of them. They all hated Salty. Honestly, this episode just kind of missed me with all the jokes. I'm not a huge fan of them using the live action characters like they do here with Salty, and there's an egregious one later on that I can't stand, but again, we'll touch on it later. Overall, it's an okay episode, but there really isn't anything that made me laugh or even exhale out of my nose a little bit. It's a solid C tier episode for the plot, and because they're trying something new here, it just didn't land for me.
Away with you, you nasty rotten thing!
Just letting you all know now, this is an S tier episode. Just let's all agree on that first, okay? Undisputedly one of the best episodes in the entire show. The Smiling Friends get a decree from the Princess of the Enchanted Forest and set out to make her smile for a royal portrait. Pim's super into it because he loves the Enchanted Forest and Charlie hates it. At least at first. All Pim wants to do is go on one small quest, which Charlie keeps shooting down. Eventually though, a witch steals Charlie's hat, so they go on a witch quest where they're kidnapped and about to be eaten by the witch, only for Mip to show up and save the day. Mip's also on a quest to go visit the princess, so the duo tag along with him. Why is Mip going to see the princess? Well, he's got a package for her, but only those worthy enough to deliver it can know what's inside. Naturally, Charlie ends up getting way too into Mip as the group spends the entire day questing. If you haven't noticed yet, Mip is just Pim backwards. You're welcome. So Charlie gets super invested in questing with Mip, which pisses Pim off because that's literally all Pim wanted to do, and Charlie kept shooting him down earlier, causing Pim to slowly devolve into Gollum from Lord of the Rings. The group rests for the night, and there's a moment between Charlie and Mip where you're like, oh, these two are gonna get it on. And then Mip fucking dies. As he's bleeding out, he asks Pim to deliver the box for him, and the duo apologize to each other, finishing the quest together. The next morning, they bring the box to the princess, only to discover that Mip is the princess's stalker, and the box being delivered isn't just a box, it's a pipe bomb. Realizing Mip died, the princess is able to smile, Pim got to complete a quest, and everyone's happy. Except for Charlie, who was poisoned by Mip at the beginning of the episode and looks like this now. S tier episode. It's funny, the plot's good, it's got standout moments, just overall, one of my favorites.
Okay, go, what's up?
Onward to episode 7, Frowning Friends. Fun fact, the entire first minute or so where they're talking about the Renaissance men was completely ad-libbed. Anyway, the entire premise of this episode revolves around a new company, the Frowning Friends, moving in next door to the Smiling Friends. Can you guess what they're up to? Grim and Gnarly are exact opposites of Pim and Charlie, and if that wasn't immediately clear to you, I have a nice little link for you down in the description. While you're down there checking it out, you might as well subscribe. Maybe even like the video while you're at it. So, the entire premise of the Frowning Friends, shocker, is to cause chaos for everyone they meet. One of my favorite moments of the episode is when Charlie and Pim bring the news to Mr. Boss, who's just playing Dance Dance Revolution in his office, just going all out, like full nuts to butts, just crushing it. This episode also has that get out of my head scene that many of you may know.
Okay, let's de-escalate. Nobody's messing with your head. Nobody's messing with your head. Let's just put... No, nobody's messing...
The ending is also pretty funny. So Mr. Boss is losing billions to the Frowning Friends. So he decides to pull the tried and true American public school approach, but when he finally gets up to them, the Frowning Friends immediately fold, revealing their hypocrisy to the entire town, showing that they do in fact care and aren't genuine like the Smiling Friends. You think everything's gonna be alright, and then the fucking Renaissance men show up and just light up Grim and Gnarly. I threw this one in A tier because it's got a few laughs and the story's good, but I still think the S tier episodes are in a league of their own.
Dude, if you do that again, I'm gonna punch you. I'm not kidding.
Charlie dies and doesn't come back is another solid episode. The episode opens up with the Smiling Friends on their way to find a Christmas tree for the office. Charlie's apprehensive about it because, like most normal people, he's pissed he's gotta work on Christmas. This leads to a fight between him and Pim, which ends abruptly when the tree falls on Charlie, killing him instantly. Charlie wakes up in hell, where it's revealed that Satan has been dropping the ball on management. He's actually just holed up in his room playing Rust and door-dashing food, which I thought was hilarious. Charlie ends up making a deal with Satan that if he can make him smile, he can be brought back to life, which ends up coming in the form of Charlie being tortured before fucking Gilbert Godfrey shows up to save the day. I think I speak for practically everyone when I say the funniest scene in the episode is when the little worm demon thing is trying to annoy Charlie, and he just punches him in the stomach.
Behind me.
It's either that or Mr. Boss dropping some absolute heat at Charlie's burial before he comes back.
Charlie, what does it mean? Charlie, you with my everything. World's f***ed up, man.
Overall, a very B tier episode. I can see an argument for A, but to me, B is the best spot for it.
The Smiling Friends go to Brazil!
The Smiling Friends Go to Brazil is every vacationer's worst nightmare. As the title suggests, the episode revolves around the group hanging out in the airport after landing in Brazil for a relaxing week-long vacation. The only problem? Well, Pim forgot to book a hotel for them, and since it's Mardi Gras, everywhere they try to go is completely booked out. The majority of the episode just revolves around the group bickering and slowly devolving as they try to figure out what to do, even calling Mr. Boss for help. There aren't really a ton of jokes in the episode, since the entire concept itself is what carries, but the moments that made me smile were when they try to sit down at a cafe and the waitress just won't leave them alone. Or when a Joey Diaz lookalike walks up to them and spends 2 full minutes literally 20% of the episode just trying to talk to them. And after spending their entire day in the airport stressing out over their situation, the group decides to just bail on the vacation and fly back home. It's not my favorite episode, but I do like the idea of being stranded in an airport, and because that's just a fear that everyone has had at least once in their life. I place this in C tier mainly because, at least to me, it's a pretty forgettable episode. Like I said, there's not really a ton of jokes, and the concept is funny, but it's basically just 12 minutes of Charlie and Pim and Allan arguing with each other before just leaving. If you're still here, congrats, we've officially made it through Season 1. Now on to Season 2.
Yay! A Pim and Allan Adventure!
Starting with Swimbly, Definitive Remastered Enhanced Extended Edition DX 4K Anniversary Director's Cut. And yes, that is the real title. Centered around helping a once famous video game character return to greatness, Pim and Allan work together to try to defeat an evil corporate hack while coming up with another sweet video game idea. It's also got this scene in it.
This homeless man won't leave, so I'm spraying him with dirty brown water.
Allan's gotta be the most underrated character in the show, but don't worry, he's got something coming very soon. Anyway, this episode's got a bit of everything. The plot is a little weird and kind of felt like a rerun of the Mr. Frog episode from Season 1, but still a little different, and you could tell they were messing around with some new styles since the video game characters are all pixelated now instead of the normal cartoon animation like the rest of the show, which is something I appreciated. So while Pim and Allan are teaming up for the episode, where's Charlie? Well, he's effectively getting bullied by some dude on PEDs. It's a really nice change of pace to split the main duo up and give Allan a bit more of the spotlight, and it's something that'll continue throughout the rest of Season 2. Anyway, the big climax of the episode happens when everyone meets at the office, with the jock saving the day by stabbing the corporate fat ass in the head. One of my favorite moments in the episode comes at the very end, where after spending literally the entire time berating and abusing Charlie, it's revealed that the psycho jock bully actually loved Charlie the whole time and is just beating himself up over screwing things up seemingly again. Also, the new Gwimbly game is just Smash Bros, but with Gwimbly characters, which I thought was funny. It's a solid start to Season 2, and a B-tier episode. Unfortunately for us, it's followed up by a massive pile of shit. Hands down my least favorite episode in the entire show, and it's all due to one character, this fucking guy. President Jimble. He's intentionally disgusting, but I also just can't stand the fucking sound of people eating and smacking their lips and it's literally all he does. He's just gross and covered in food and always eating, and I hate him. I hate everything about him. He sucks. He's not funny. He's overly annoying, and every time he's on screen, I want to throw my TV into a wood chipper and climb in after it. The plot focuses on this dipshit running for president against Mr. Frog from Season 1. Remember him? Well, he's back. No matter what Pim and Charlie try to do, President Jimble is just too stupid to do anything right, constantly sabotaging himself in an attempt to become president. There's also a secret Illuminati group cult thing where it's revealed that they secretly run everything. They side with Jimble, who appears to be winning on election night, only for their decision to be overturned due to one vote, coming from Gleb, crowning Mr. Frog as the new president. The only redeeming moment of the episode for me is the fact that the news station just doxes Gleb, which is meant to be ironic because it actually happens like all the time with national news stations doing this shit. This is probably the only D-tier episode in the entire video, and it's solely due to President Jimble, because I couldn't even focus on the episode without getting nauseous every time his dumb fucking face popped up.
Thank God, finally.
A Allan Adventure. Boy, this one was overdue. I love everything about this episode. It's easily an A tier, but I could be persuaded to upgrade it to S. You don't really get to know Allan all that well from him being a background character, so it's hilarious to have the show open up with his living situation in a pretty nice apartment and what's either his wife, girlfriend, or just some hooker in cowboy boots in his bed, then immediately showing off his psychotic landlord. The main plot of this episode involves Allan going on a paperclip hunt for Mr. Boss. There's another hilarious moment where he walks into a store to see a dude with 6 arms stocking shelves and then just immediately gets into it with him.
Oh man, what? Ask your question, go ahead, what?
Then finding this old f*** who sells paper clips, but could have just been using his nose the entire time because it fits perfectly. There's a whole high-speed chase with a callback to the Get Out of My Head guy from the Frowning Friends episode, all culminating in one of the most popular TikTok and YouTube Shorts audio clips circulating the internet right now.
Thank God, finally. What the fuck?
Anyway, it turns out that this entire event was one giant plan all set in place by Allan's landlord, who forces Allan to hang out with him and play Burnout Revenge for the PS2. It's a fantastic little twist that made me spit out my coffee the first time I heard it. And then you check the screen to see he's in a fucking suicide vest, and it's just so good. Allan's able to get out of the situation by using a paperclip to turn off the bomb vest. He then brings the paperclips to work, and Mr. Boss gives him a little Mr. Boss as a reward or gift, which Allan immediately re-gifts to Charlie.
Yep, sure, here, take it.
Like I said a few minutes ago, it's hilarious from the very beginning and maintains that for the entire episode. Just an absolute banger.
I can't keep doing this to myself. I can't.
That's right, the boss is getting married. Also, this is me at literally all of my friends' weddings. Don't judge.
Fuck, that's funny, guy. Tim, I'm telling you, man, I think this could be the fifth smiling friend.
This episode feels very reminiscent of when Chef almost marries a succubus in the early seasons of South Park, so I like to think the show writers grabbed some inspiration from that. Only, in this case, the bride is a legit demon who looks like this. Charlie and Pim notice that Mr. Boss is starting to act weird ever since the wedding. Or I guess I should say weirder than his normal self, and that the wife never leaves his side, constantly whispering in his ear. With all that happening, Charlie and Pim recruit Allan to try and save Mr. Boss. There's another scene where they're at Charlie's apartment researching what the demon wife might be up to, and there's this creepy mannequin thing that Allan points out.
Hello, Adam.
Ew.
Pim finds out that the demon wife is actually the daughter of Satan. The trio then head to Mr. Boss's house, where Allan leaves Charlie and Pim to go to his Dr. Monster appointment with Dr. Monster. Pim and Charlie head into the house and try to kill the wife by stabbing her with a dagger that Charlie had purchased from Jimble at the beginning of the episode, only for it to be revealed that the dagger is actually a gag knife.
Charlie, this is a fake knife.
What?
Yeah, it's one of those plastic knives that retract, see?
Oh my god.
It's a gag knife.
Oh my god, I paid $600 for that, dude.
Oh,
The daughter of Satan is actually more upset that Charlie and Pim were mean to her than trying to kill her, and ends up falling out of the window to her death, solving everyone's problems. I'm gonna put this one in B tier because it's got some funny moments, but there's better.
I did not like that.
This episode might have one of the funniest openings in the entire series. Charlie and Pim are called into Mr. Boss's office and told they've been given the privilege to help the one, the only,
Jared Fogle!
Just look at their reactions. It's so fucking good. So it's not actually Jared. It's just Glep and Mr. Boss pulling a prank on the two. Their actual job is helping this lunatic. He's a mad scientist trying to create life with science stuff in the spare room of his brother's house. There's a pretty funny moment where the brothers get into it because his girlfriend's over and they can't watch a movie because the mad scientist is being way too loud, and it all culminates with him getting kicked out with nowhere to go. The funniest part of the episode, at least to me, is seemingly out of nowhere. Charlie and Pim just decide to talk in Spanish for a solid 20 seconds, thinking they're being secretive, only for the scientist to be like,
I can understand you. I took Spanish in school.
Oh, well, I guess you know our plan then.
For the solution, Charlie and Pim try to organize a therapy session for both of the brothers, which gets heated before it's revealed that the scientist actually succeeded in creating life. The brothers settle their differences and agree to raise the weird egg baby thing together. This is a bit of a weird one for me. I really wasn't too sure how I felt about it, so I'm just gonna toss it in C tier for now, but I can see how some of you might have it higher up on your list.
Pim, wake up.
Charlie, Pim, and Bill vs. the alien. This is one of my all-time favorite episodes, so it should be pretty obvious that it's an S tier. This whole thing kicks off with Pim taking Charlie to a UFO hunting group, but turns out to just be a group of nutjobs sitting out in the middle of a cornfield, which pisses Charlie off because he ditched an awesome party for it. The group spends most of the night just staring into the sky and sharing conspiracy theories about how the Earth is actually flat and covered in a giant glass dome, and that's why the aliens haven't seen us yet. All with Charlie getting progressively more annoyed. That is, until they break out the theremin. To everyone's amazement, it actually fucking works, resulting in Pim, Charlie, and Bill getting abducted. Charlie and Pim wake up to realize the aliens have eaten Bill, one of the UFO hunters, but luckily for the duo, the alien ship they're on ends up getting abducted as well. This time though, the new aliens are throwing a massive party. Charlie and Pim proceed to get massively fucked up at it, which is just a giant acid trip in and of itself. After they recover, they're tricked into blowing up a planet to go home, thinking that they're killing billions of people, only for it to be revealed that the planet's been abandoned for decades. While Charlie and Pym argue with the two sets of aliens, the ship they're on is abducted yet again, but this time by the alien police people things. This causes Charlie to hijack an alien saucer and begin flying the duo back to Earth, leading to the giant twist of the episode. I've watched this episode maybe 5 or 6 times now, and it still makes me laugh every time. Just how mind-shattering it is to them, and how they're immediately like, we can't tell anyone about this, it'll ruin everything. And then it just f***ing ends. And there's a little post-credit scene here where it's revealed that the 2 survivors of the UFO group were thrown in prison for the suspected killing of Bill, Charlie, and Pym that I thought was hilarious as well. Again, it's S tier to me. One of those episodes I could watch 100 times and not get bored of.
That was bad.
The magical red jewel, aka Tyler gets fired. I love that it's in the title because that's the big takeaway from this episode. That's right, Tyler gets fired. It's a big shock to everyone involved, including the audience, because we don't even know who the f*** Tyler is. It's a great setup because obviously you're only introduced to the main characters and he's literally just a throwaway for shock value, but it's become a huge meme on Twitter, TikTok, and YouTube Shorts to the point where the creators of the show literally put it in the title of the episode. With that covered, I can say that's really the only joke that landed for me this episode. The whole premise is that Mr. Boss bought a special jewel, but needs someone to go with him because they all speak Spanish. Not Spanish, Spamish. And Mr. Boss doesn't know how to speak that language. So he needs someone to go with him, which ends up being Pym. While Charlie and Allan are tasked with watching over Mr. Boss's 18-year-old son, Jason. This is Jason. While Charlie and Allan are talking, Jason f***ing dies. Just out of nowhere. Pym and Mr. Boss go to Spamtopia, where it's revealed Pym learned to speak Spanish due to having a pen pal from here when he was a child. The big thing with Spamtopia is that you can't make eye contact, which is a bit hard to do when they all look like this. But yeah, making eye contact is considered very offensive to them, so naturally, Pym makes eye contact with the cellar when a mosquito is sucking blood out of it. Really gross and weird, but that's kind of the whole point. So they go on to trial and are about to be executed when it's revealed that Pym's old pen pal is actually the one running the show. Pym and Mr. Boss are set free, the pen pal is reunited with his old friend, and everything ends nicely. Except for Jason, because he's dead. Or at least that's what you're supposed to think. As it turns out, the jewel that Mr. Boss just acquired can bring things back from the dead, so he uses that to resurrect Jason, and everyone gets a happy ending. Just like a regular one though, not like a Robert Kraft one. I'm throwing this one down in C tier. This is entirely personal preference, obviously, but I'm just not a big fan of having Mr. Boss heavy episodes. To me, he's funniest when he just pops in for a few seconds and drops a few lines before dipping back out. Anyway, on to the final episode.
Oh, I must have missed that.
Pym finally turns green. It's the final episode in season 2, and honestly kind of a stinker. Charlie and Glep are building the worst snowman ever, much to Allan's annoyance. Pym notices and adds a beautiful daffodil to the snowman, which gives it life.
Oh my god.
What's going on? What is this?
If that voice sounds familiar to you, it's because the Rotten Snowman is voiced by the legendary Dana Snyder, who you might have heard voicing Gazpacho in Chowder, or more notably, Master Shake in Aqua Teen Hunger Force and Granny in Squidbillies. He's a redeeming factor in the episode, but it kinda sucks because the entire premise of this character is to just be overly annoying. And it works. So why did the daffodil bring the snowman to life? Well, because they've been growing out of Mr. Boss's nuclear waste, that's why. The one thing I do appreciate in the episode is that while Pym loves the snowman and spends all of his time with him, Charlie and Allan are supposed to be how the audience feels, which is just sheer annoyance and borderline hatred of the snowman. The entire plot revolves around the snowman realizing life can end, and then just screaming and crying for 10 minutes straight. There's a small scene with Bill Nye the Science Guy where he sings a little jingle in a hot air balloon before getting just fucking fried by a power line, which bothers Charlie so much that he actually brings it up the very next scene. You know it's a weird episode when you find yourself agreeing with Mr. Boss though, who just shows up with a revolver and drops this banger.
Friends, clients, so you better do something about him. Or so freaking help me, dude. I will.
No, please, Mr. Boss, don't.
The group tries to ship the snowman off into the mountains somewhere, only for a fucking Yeti to bring him back and drop him back off the Smiling Friends building because he's too obnoxious. They decide to bring Rotten to the beach so that he can start enjoying life, only for a stranger to knock over the cooler he's in, causing him to melt out in the sand. You think it's finally over, and you come to peace with the fact that you're not going to have to listen to him screaming anymore, only for the snowman to bleed into the ocean and just become the entire ocean. I love the little break here where Pym just asks what everyone is thinking.
So, is Rotten like the entire ocean now, or?
This is another C-tier episode for me. The premise is good and it succeeds in making the annoying character annoying, but just because that's the point doesn't mean it's a funny one. At least in my perspective. There's still some solid moments in the episode throughout, so it's not a bad one, just not for me. With that though, we're all caught up on Smiling Friends. So let me know your thoughts. Which episode was I way off on? How horrible is my list, and what would you do differently? If there's any other shows or movie series you'd like me to check out, let me know and I'll take a look. As always, thanks for watching, and I'll catch you next time. Cheers.